order. I call this meeting of the Public Accounts Committee to order. We will begin by reminding everyone to place their phones on silent so we do not have interruptions today. We are in a unique position with the prorogation of the House. We had an agenda scheduled for a number of meetings leading into the fall, but that has been wiped clean. We'll start today with introductions, beginning with Mr. McKay.
Hugh McKay, MLA, Chester St. Margaret's.
Brennan McGuire, Halifax Atlantic. Good morning.
Suzanne Lonis-Croft, MLA, Lunenburg.
Morning, Gordon Wilson, MLA for Clare Digby.
Good morning, Chris D'Entremont, MLA for Argyle Barrington.
Good day, Dave Wilson, MLA for Sackville-Cobequid.
Good morning, Lisa Roberts, MLA for Halifax Needham.
I'm Alan McMaster, MLA from Inverness, and your chair. So, as I mentioned, we are in a unique situation. We had an opportunity to keep the meeting schedule as we had. As you will recall, our clerk sent out an email to all members to poll to see whether members wanted to continue with the agenda that we had agreed upon for the fall. As soon as we received notice of the prorogation of the House, we did start to receive calls from departments saying that they understood that based on the prorogation that they would not have to appear, that the slate was wiped clean, and of course that is the case. So as a result of the polling and the fact that the committee was not in unanimous agreement that we should continue with the meetings, the slate has been wiped clean. And now we are forced to do a number of things with the prorogation. The first order of business, which we will do now, is create a new subcommittee. Mr. Gordon Wilson.
Thank you. So we have to create new people that are going to be on the subcommittee?
That is correct. That is correct. According to the legal interpretation of what happens when there's a prorogation, the committee is formed as we have it, but we have the full committee, but we do have to create, and we can create the exact same subcommittee as had existed before, but it is up to the committee. Now, typically, it is the chair, the vice chair, and a member of the third party that forms the committee. A number of years ago, when I was appointed chair, it was requested that there be a member from each caucus. And I am comfortable with proceeding with that, and unless there is an interest to do something different, which is certainly up to the committee, I would ask that someone put forward a motion for myself as chair. I am the chair of the committee, but for the subcommittee to be comprised of myself, along with a member from each caucus. So would somebody like to make that motion? Mr. Gordon Wilson.
I'd make the motion that we continue as we did in the past with the subcommittee.
Okay, and perhaps for the record you could state the names of this subcommittee.
So I would suggest that would be the chair, Alan McMaster, the vice chair, Gordon Wilson, the leader of the third party, Dave Wilson or Lisa Roberts, and the official leader, House leader for the PCs, Chris D'Entremont.
Okay, and for clarification, there was an or between two members. I'll let you state that again,
I'll
please.
rephrase that to Lisa Roberts for the NDP.
So this will go to a vote. For members' clarification, Mr. Wilson has proposed a motion that I, as chair, he, representing the Liberal caucus, Chris D'Entremont, representing the PC caucus, and Lisa Roberts, representing the NDP caucus, comprise the subcommittee. All those in favour signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion is passed. Thank you for that. The first meeting that I will call of the subcommittee, Mr. Gordon Wilson.
Before we get into calling of the meeting of the subcommittee, I know it's jumping ahead in the topics here, but there has been some correspondence from the AG, and not only to the subcommittee members that we've just recently had a chance to see, not really digest amongst all of my colleagues, and also I believe a letter went to the House leaders. I would like to make a motion that we ask the AG to come forward next week at our PAC for an in-camera to have a fulsome discussion on his participation in the committee.
Okay, a motion has been put forth to the committee. All those in favour, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion is passed. So for the 19th, the committee has chosen to have the Auditor General in an in-camera meeting to discuss. Mr. Wilson, do you have another comment? Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
To discuss the correspondence he's provided us today, or a few days ago, and everyone has a copy of that. But we will discuss that in camera next week. Thank you. We do have the business, of course, of choosing topics because our agenda has been wiped clean. Do people wish to have the subcommittee after the in-camera meeting next week? Mr. Gordon Wilson.
Could we put that discussion off until next week when we see what the AG brings forward?
I think it's certainly up to the committee, and however the committee decides. My own suggestion would be if our intent is to continue with these meetings in a timely fashion, we might want to have a subcommittee next week, could be after the meeting with the Auditor General, to select meetings for the upcoming weeks. Because, of course, we had all these meetings scheduled and now they're no longer on the agenda. So it is up to members. Mr. Gordon Wilson.
And I can understand, you know, it'd be nice to start getting agenda items filled. I believe we have a fall report coming up in October from the AG. Could we plug that one in, say, for maybe October 2nd? I think that's the earliest possible that he had said October.
We do have that. The previous committee did agree upon that, and it does not have to go through the subcommittee. The full committee could agree upon it right now. So that was scheduled for October 3rd, and so yes, is it the wish of the committee to have the Auditor General appear with his report on October 3rd? All those in favour? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that clerk will make note of that. We're jumping right through the agenda here even before I get to it, so that's good. The Honourable Dave Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask that we do have the subcommittee meet after a meeting with the Auditor General next week. I think during the meeting we'll be able to work out some of the concerns or issues or the approach the Auditor General would like us to take. Just because if we don't, then we waste the September 26th as a possible meeting date. We're a little later than normal now. Normally we're start of September, we're right into meetings. So I would suggest that we do have the subcommittee so that we could possibly have a witness on the 26th. I know it'll be a short notice for the witness, but some that may have been scheduled could potentially be on that list. So I would make, I don't know if it needs to be a motion to have the subcommittee meet next week after our meeting with the Auditor General to see if we can get our agenda finalized.
Just for clarification, I may actually have this power without even needing the approval of the committee. I'm going to confer one. Okay, I do have the power, but you have the power to override me. So I would propose, in agreement with the Honourable Dave Wilson, that an agenda-setting meeting be held by the subcommittee after the meeting with the in-camera meeting with the Auditor General next week. Mr. Gordon Wilson.
I wasn't opposed to having one on the subsequent to the AGs, but in all fairness, some of my colleagues, as of yesterday, hadn't even had a chance to see the letter that the AG had sent out with a lot of interesting points. I'm I'm suggesting also that the meeting that was proposed by the House leaders, or with the House leaders, be held actually as part of that PAC that we're going to have next week in camera. In all fairness, I'm not sure what we're going to hear or what's going to come out of that, but I think it would be a little premature to try and think that we're going to be able to establish a subcommittee agenda setting immediately after what he has to say next week without even a chance to digest it, in all fairness. This is an opportunity, I think, that has rarely been seen in public accounts to actually have a very fulsome discussion with the AG. And again, I think it might be, I'm not saying that we couldn't, but I'd be very interested in actually just hearing what the AG has to say next week, and then continue from that point. Whether that means we would have a subcommittee meeting immediately following, I don't think so. I think we need to digest what he has to say. I would suggest that the 26th would potentially even be the earliest.
In all fairness, Mr. Wilson, the members who are sitting in this committee have been sitting in this committee for many, many meetings. We had meetings set up. Departments were ready to visit. They were ready to appear as witnesses. Because the members of your caucus chose not to give unanimous support to continue those meetings, we don't have those meetings. The purpose of this committee is to examine the public accounts, to examine departments, initiatives they're taking, how they're spending public funds. That is a function of the legislature. We are in a position now where our proceedings have been delayed because of that lack of unanimous support to continue those meetings. We had departments immediately calling after the prorogation, calling our clerk saying, we understand that we don't have to appear now. Clearly, they did not want to appear. So I don't want to be passive on this. If I'm going to be passive on this, that to me, I'm not doing my job as a legislator. I sit on this committee because I believe departments should be confident to appear and should be willing to appear to answer to the public through yourselves. You're the elected members. So personally, I would cast my vote in a manner that would suggest that we should get on with business, that we should have the subcommittee. Members have the correspondence from the Auditor General. It's quite straightforward. It talks about chapters that have already been put forward in past reports. Everybody knows those chapters. Members should be more than ready next week to appear, to make a decision on meetings going forward, and to get these meetings rolling again. Are there any other comments? Mr. Wilson.
I certainly wouldn't question our chair and his passion to move forward in what we've done and what we have done in the past. That's not what this is about. I see this as a unique opportunity right now that doesn't happen very often. And simply for that reason, that conversation, I think, is one that I would encourage that we have and not rush through that conversation. One more week, I don't think, what if we looked at the 26th as, I don't know if that's too soon for the AG to report. If it's the whole thing is about filling that slot on the 26th, can we move the AG up to the 26th? He's shaking his head no. So, okay.
Just for clarification, his report is going to be released on October 2nd. Right. So then we would meet on the 3rd. Yeah.
So we can't release it on the 25th and have that meeting on the 26th. No, that's okay. Because I'm the same as you. I'd like to see us beginning to move forward. The prorogation was unfortunate as far as, but that's the rules. That's the way the rules work. But again, I would like to see us have a fulsome discussion and then decide how we set our agendas. If there is, in fact, a question, which has been the basis of those letters from the AG, that he feels that witnesses are not coming forward that are a result of his reports, I think it's, in all fairness, we need to digest that and know how that means and what that might mean for better agenda setting. And that's the whole premise of what he wanted to meet with the House leaders about.
Okay, I have comments from Ms. Roberts and then Mr. D'Entremont.
Thank you. I'm certainly keen to have us start with some of the substantial meetings and opportunities to question departments about different subjects that were on the agenda that had been agreed to by essentially this same committee before prorogation. I think it would be reasonable, given that there's no obligation on the subcommittee to set the next 4 months of meetings. We could simply agree, for example, to have each caucus select one of the topics that we have on our list to try to schedule, because realistically for our clerks to try to get a couple topics and sets of witnesses teed up and in place for starting September 26th ideally, and then through October, that actually requires work and scheduling and clarifying who is available. So I think to allow our clerks to do the work so that we're not showing the citizens of Nova Scotia that we've put things on hold unnecessarily, I really think that would be the best course of action. And also, given, I look forward to that full conversation with the Auditor General, with the changes that we made last year, such that when there are performance audits, we are effectively able to deal with those audits in a more timely fashion, because we're not having a full in-camera session followed by a public session with the Auditor General. I think we should be experiencing in the course of the year some more flexibility to get topics on. So I don't think that scheduling the topics, each caucus one topic that we had already agreed to would be hampering the work of the committee moving forward, even if we want to adjust our course following that full discussion with the Auditor General.
Thank you. Mr. D'Entremont.
And I do agree with Ms. Roberts. We should be nimble enough to make adjustments to our meeting schedule to be able to get a couple pieces in until we hear from a full report from the Auditor General. We can take in consideration the letter we got almost over a week ago, if not almost 2 weeks ago, the letter that we received as House leaders as well. And we do want to hear from the Auditor General and what his thoughts are on how we should proceed on some of these things. But there is a function of this committee that each one of these caucuses have things that interest them and things that we do want to have come forward. And I think we can be, again, nimble enough to make those adjustments. I'll make the quick political comment here. I don't know why the government feels that they need to sort of rag the puck here, what they're avoiding. This is going to be a very short session of the House of Assembly, and I don't know why they're trying to push the topics beyond the sitting of the House. So I'm just going to question that. That's my political comment for this morning. But we should have a meeting on the 19th and, set a couple of quick topics that we know that people were already ready to present. I don't think it'll be a surprise to them that we call them again and say, can you come on Wednesday for your presentation and for your cross-examination. I hear what the member's saying, but hey, we're in the House of Assembly right now. We've got lots of time to read our mail. We've got lots of time to prepare for things. We should be able to be nimble enough to get going.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon Wilson.
Just to reply to his comments, there is no intention to drag things down. This is simply, again, as I noted, a rare opportunity that we have to engage the AG in a fulsome discussion. It's not a hill I'm going to die on if you suggest that we have an agenda setting for next week. I think my colleagues are not going to, it's not our intent to push things down the road. Again, it's an opportunity, and I hope that nobody is presupposing what they're going to hear next week and make a decision immediately that day. So that's my only concern, is after that conversation we have next Wednesday, I would rather us we can still set an agenda setting for the 26th that day. I just don't want to presuppose what we're going to hear and make a quick decision immediately on the 19th. That's all.
Thank you for that. The correspondence that the Auditor General has sent to us, it's all historic. It's all about past reports. It's about reports that departments were never called in. So at the end of the day, it is the committee members who decide the agenda, not the Auditor General. So you have that information now. What is also going to possibly cause delay is after the subcommittee chooses topics, they have to be agreed upon by the full committee. So that can push it out to another week. So it's really up to the committee, and it's the committee that votes on this. So I would propose next week, there's been agreement to have the Auditor General in an in-camera meeting from 9 to 11, or however much time is needed. If it finishes before 11, I would suggest that we carry on with our business, move to the subcommittee to select topics, even for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Our clerk could then, well, actually then we would have to bring the full committee back into the room to agree to those topics. That way on the 19th, our clerk could proceed with contacting departments who, as we know, aren't always available at the drop of the hat. So it's possible that we would not have another meeting on the 26th. The 3rd, it would be the first meeting that we would have with the Auditor General with his report. So the clerk has suggested we could have the subcommittee before the in-camera meeting with the Auditor General. I guess whether we have it before or after, at the end of the day, we still need to have the full committee meet after the subcommittee. Yes, that's true, and then we wouldn't have to bring them back in. So it is up to the committee. It is up to the committee, but so that we are not going in all different directions here, I'm going to propose a motion before the committee. If people wish to vote it down and propose a different motion, that's fine. I would only ask that you make it clear, if you do propose another motion, exactly what you would like to see. So I would propose that we meet at 9 next week with the Auditor General in camera to discuss the correspondence that he's provided recently. I would then propose, when the discussion is complete, it may be before 11 a.m. If it is, then the full committee would leave the room except for the subcommittee. That the subcommittee would then have a meeting to discuss what meetings they would like to propose to the full committee. After agreement on that, we would bring the full committee back into the room to vote on the subjects that have been approved by the subcommittee. And if there is agreement, then the clerk on the 19th could proceed with asking departments to make themselves available as witnesses. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Oh, Mr. Gordon Wilson.
Just I'm a stickler for protocol. Wouldn't it be better if that motion came from us and not the chair?
Yes.
Okay, so.
I so move.
Mr. D'Entremont.
I'll move exactly that. Thank you.
And my apologies, understanding that I had the ability to call the subcommittee. I guess I went a little over my bounds. Okay, so Mr. D'Entremont has moved that motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is passed. Our clerk will make note of that. We had other business on the agenda that we've actually already reached and agreed upon. Our next meeting will be next week on the 19th. Is there any further business to come before the committee? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.